Okay, are we live? All right, we're live. Here we go. All right, so hi everybody. I wanted to do a video here talking about this idea that consciousness cannot be divided, but it can be expanded, okay? So that's what this video is about. I like to share, I'm Tim Welch. This is Selfless Awakening channel. If you like this content, feel free to follow me here and also subscribe to the YouTube channel link. So here we go. I'm gonna get going, okay? Because I forgot to say, these live videos, I post them to the YouTube channel after, okay? So hi there. So here we go. I'm just going to speak a little bit about this topic of consciousness cannot be divided, but it can be expanded. This popped in my head this morning when I was meditating, and it felt like a revelatory ping in my mind. So I just want to share that. I like this idea of sharing things that feel like discoveries. Okay, so here we go. So what this idea that consciousness cannot be divided, but it can be expanded. What I took from that when it popped in my head this morning when I was meditating was this idea that awareness, we can't take our focus and put it here and then put it here at the same time. It's like multitasking, this idea of multitasking. I believe multitasking is not real. It's not possible. We can't divide our attention, okay? I think of our attention more like a flashlight that we're shining. And we can shine it wherever we want to shine it. But it's going to be shining in the direction you're focusing, okay? So if we think about our consciousness as our attention, which is how I like to think about consciousness, is my awareness, my my true sense of self is the awareness that is behind my thoughts, around my body. And by the way, I want to say, I didn't say at the beginning of this video, this video is intended a little bit more for those of you out there. Hi. Yeah, this video is intended for those of you out there who are a little more advanced on your journey. You consider yourself practicers of mindfulness, awakening. You maybe meditate daily. You've had experiences meditating out of your body, you know. This is going to be more geared for you, for those of you. If you're just starting off, this information might go, woo, it might go right over your head. I know if I was just starting off, the things I'm talking about right now might be a little, they would have been a little advanced for me 10, 15 years ago or something. So again, this is for those of you who are maybe down the road of your mindfulness journey a bit, okay? So topic is consciousness cannot be divided, but it can be expanded, okay? So what I took from this idea when I was meditating and downloaded this morning was, as I mentioned earlier in the video, consciousness is attention. I am consciousness. The true me is consciousness, which another word for that is attention. Attention, imagine a flashlight I'm shining. I am wherever I'm putting my attention. If I am awareness itself, if that is true, which I believe it's true, which I've experienced it to be true, then wherever I'm aiming, wherever I'm identifying with my attention, that is where I am. And that's where I've decided to concentrate my consciousness or my awareness. Okay? So when we talk about this idea that we can't, consciousness can't be divided, in other words, what I'm saying is you can't multitask. You can't focus on one thing and another thing at the same time. You can't be writing emails and focusing on another conversation fully. Your mind is more like aware of the keys, aware of what you're saying, a little bit aware here. There is a subconscious thing going on that maybe is collecting all the information. The subconscious part of ourselves is sure, that may be aware of everything, but you, the consciousness that's awake in this moment, cannot be fully active One here, one there. You can't divide it. Okay? Our awareness is a flashlight. It shines in one direction at a time. Multitasking is a myth. However, this was my aha moment from this morning. Consciousness cannot be divided, but it can be expanded. Okay? Let's think about that for a minute. I can, one of my meditations that I do in the mornings, I learned it from Eckhart Tolle. It's the inner body awareness meditation. If you don't know about that, look it up online, Google it. It's such a powerful, sensational meditation. And what I do is I meditate into the sensation in my hands. Like if you just sit with your hands still on your leg and you hold awareness in your hand and you just hold still and you don't move it, but you just think about your hand. And can you feel that you have a hand if you just held it still? Like, how would you know you had a hand if you were just sitting there with it on your leg? If you ask yourself that question, you'll notice like, oh, well, I can kind of feel my hand. My hand feels warm. It feels kind of tingly maybe a little bit. You can notice sensation in your hand, right? That's awareness. That's consciousness. You're taking your true self, which is really attention, consciousness, awareness itself. You're taking your higher self, your true you, and you're putting that awareness in your hand. And you can just hold it there. And that's an incredible meditation tool, by the way. If you're in a meeting, you're at work, you're stressed out, you're in the doctor's office waiting for something, and you feel your heart rate going, you feel stress, just meditating, holding awareness in your hand will take identification out of the thought stream. It'll take your attention away from identifying with the thought stream and identifying it somewhere else. And in doing so, there's peace in that. There's peace when we take our identification out of the, oh my God, what's going to happen? I'm so afraid. We take ourselves out of that and just bring our attention to, I'll feel inside of my hand. Like I'm feeling the warmth of my hand right now. Oh. If you do that enough, if you learn how to deepen into that, you can really have a lot of peace. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about this idea that I can hold my consciousness in my hand. And although I may not be able to hold my consciousness here and divide it over there and divide it over there, the flashlight can only shine in one direction at a time, right? And that is what our consciousness is. But what if we could take that flashlight and go and expand it? So it's not this idea of my attention is here, my attention is there, I'm multitasking. No, it's this idea of I'm aware of it all at once. Whoa, that's crazy, right? So it's this idea that you're stepping into an identification with an awareness that takes in more than a limited awareness, than a more focused awareness. We can control like a flashlight, like the beam of light covering something. We can control the size of our consciousness. I can take all of my consciousness, all of my awareness, all of my attention, that is the true me, and put it into my just one hand. I can hold it right there. Just charge that hand with awareness. Any thought that comes in, no, hand. Anything I feel in my body, hand. Hand. Or any ache in my foot, no, hand. I can just hold my awareness just like I'm charging. Like if you ever watched that show, Marvel, Iron Fist, I'm like the Iron Fist. I'm like charging my hand right now. I can take my awareness and put it all right there. Also, I can take my awareness and put it in both hands at the same time. Just holding awareness, just holding still, just taking awareness out of my thoughts and putting them in my hand. So now I've expanded my awareness from one hand to the other. I'm holding awareness in two hands at the same time. I've taken that flashlight, which was focused in just one hand of awareness, and I went and I spread it out. Now I've got awareness in two hands. I can add my feet on as well. Now I can feel a little charge, more than a little. I can feel charge in my feet and in my hands at the same time. Like I'm charging them up. You see this idea? You get my point? I'm expanding the size of my attention. Now, what if I were to take this room behind the camera, behind me, and I were to just hold awareness of the room, like I were the room, and I just held it there? It's almost like I can feel myself as the room, kind of. The same way that when we're driving, think of when you're driving a car. If you've been driving a car for years, you notice how you can kind of intuitively feel the front of the car, right? It's like you're driving, you're like, oh, I'm not going to bump that car. And you're like, oh, I'm getting close, I'm getting close. It's like that car becomes an extension of you. I was talking with a biology professor, friend of mine, and he was talking about this idea of, there are these studies, it's called fMRI. It's a functional MRI, or it's like a movement. They're MRIs where they study motion. And he was talking about a samurai sword, someone who is experienced with a samurai sword, how the sword, the way that the sword behaves functioning through space is as if that sword is an extension of the arm of the samurai, of the swordsman, you know? And it's literally like the consciousness, the awareness of that person goes all the way to the end of the sword, okay? And again, I'm saying this is for really a video. This is more for you advanced, for people who are like on the path. Like this is some pretty next level stuff we're talking about. Like this idea of identifying with something outside of your body. Like you, and this is the truth. You are not your body and you're not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind your thoughts and that inhabits your body. That you're literally, that attention, you're focusing it onto your body. Most of the time, we spend our days, like being in our everyday life, most people, as we come up, we're going through the day, we're identified with our thoughts, the thoughts in our day. We don't notice driving to work. We don't notice, who's in the elevator with us. We're on our phones. We don't notice who's sitting next to us on the train. Most of the time, we go through life in that state of being, this unconscious state of being, which when we're in an unconscious state of being, what's really happening is we're identifying with our thoughts. Our consciousness, which the consciousness I was talking about earlier, that I was just holding my awareness in my hand. I was taking my attention, which is the true me, and putting it in my hand. When I am high, for most of us, when we're in an unconscious state, and I still fall into unconscious states sometimes, we will find ourselves identified with our thoughts. We're not identified with the sensation in our body. We're not identified with an awareness of the physical space we're in, the light behind me right now that I see in the camera, like the sounds of outside. We're not most of the time identified with those things out there. Most of the time, that consciousness, which I took in that little demonstration of putting it in my hand, putting it in this hand, putting it in my feet, most of the time that awareness that is the true us is jam-packed into our thought stream. Most of the time. And it's seduced by Facebook, by Instagram, by scrolling. And that's one of the ways that it keeps us locked into thought. And the problem is that, well, first of all, there's no real problems. It's all working itself out fine. I don't like to say the problem is. But I will say that living a life mostly identified with thought is missing the point. It's fine. You can live your life that way and die and go away and have been fully unconscious the whole time. A lot of people do. And my hope is, my vision, my dream with this channel is to show and share how much more joy is in a life lived dedicated to this idea of how can I be happier? How can I be better? What more is there here on this human journey than just getting stuff, feeling physically good, satisfying the cravings of my body, making myself look good. There is so much more to this experience to find that to not wake up. I just feel like for me with this channel is just a chance to share my experience with it, because I almost feel like I have had such a profound, I feel I have had such profound discoveries and breakthroughs with this in my own journey, that I would love to just be able to share it and have someone hear this and go, oh, wow, that's possible. And then try these experiments that I talk about and maybe feel a little bit of what the joy that I get to feel every day. Because I have felt horrible before. I've felt horrible for long times. I've felt nervous, I've felt afraid, I've felt lost, I've felt not focused. And I feel whatever the opposite of that is times a billion right now. So it's almost like when you get to that place, you feel this desire to share. And really that's where I'm at with it. And this idea of this message I got this morning about, I want to, this idea that consciousness cannot be divided, but it can be expanded, was really, I think, sort of aimed at the idea that we cannot multitask, but what we can do is expand what we are aware of in any moment. We can be aware of that inner body sensation I was talking about earlier. We can be aware of that and aware of the words coming out of our mouth, or aware of the person that we're speaking to at this moment. Or we can be present to that awareness feeling while we're driving and still aware of the road. We can be aware. When we're aware of our inner body when we're driving, or we're aware of our breath when we're driving or moving around, anything like that, when we are present to something other than our thought stream, we are actually we're better drivers. Like, we are better drivers. The thought stream is the thing that'll trip you up. Think about it. If you're driving, if we really pay attention to the times when we get in accidents, and I mean, this may not be all the time. Maybe it is all the time. I don't know. But this is just my suspicion. Most of the time, if we look at the thoughts that are going on in the heads of the people that are involved in an accident, I'll bet you I bet you that their awareness was not present to their surroundings, present to the car. I bet you that they were caught in some, oh my God, I can't believe that he said that to me again. That was so bad. I'm so frustrated. I want to get there. I just can't wait to get there and I'll crash, A lot of times that's when we're in these like frenetic identification with thought states that we have these types of experiences of, like things kind of happen on their own that we don't want to have happen, So by this idea of expanding our consciousness, what we're really doing, because here's the paradox now, and again, this video is really like, this is some out there stuff. This is some real pushing out there stuff. Most of the things that we discover on our spiritual journey as we get down the road further are paradoxes. And this one is a paradox. Consciousness cannot be divided, but it can be expanded, is a paradox. Because the reality is, consciousness is everywhere. And the illusion is that it's separate in me from anything. The illusion is that it's separate from me in you. Consciousness is everything all at once, all the time. There is a full riding awareness that I just feel that. I like to speak from experiential learning. I feel a consciousness there all the time. And also, paradoxically, I feel that I am a concentration of consciousness. How does that work? How can I feel that there is a consciousness that's everywhere all the time, and also at the same time, I am a concentration of that consciousness? Paradox. You see what I mean? That's a paradox, okay? So many of these discoveries along the road are, it's like you can say the thing and then you can say, well, but isn't the opposite kind of also true? Yes. And the reason that we have these paradoxes is because it's our mind trying to understand something that it can't conceptualize. Our mind cannot, I believe, understand the universe. We can understand certain aspects of it, right? And we keep getting gifted with more and more discoveries, but to use words, to use vocal sounds and writing things out, blah, 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 to try to encapsulate all of the wonders of the universe is insane, right? So paradoxes, right? And this idea, circling back around, I know I like to leave these a little serpentine. I believe that free-form conversation and free flow of ideas and thinking is the next wave. You know, we're so fixated on these sound bites, these little clips. I like the idea of just being able to talk to each other. You know, that's one of the great things about these live videos and where we can just go off and just talk like people about stuff, you know. So now I'm going to circle back around to my point to close here. Consciousness cannot be expanded, or consciousness cannot be divided, but it can be expanded. That's a paradoxical statement right there, right? Because really what I'm talking about is this idea. It's not that you're expanding consciousness. That's not really possible. Consciousness is already expanded. Consciousness is infinite. That's the truth. The reality is that we become, the consciousness that we are becomes aware. This is trippy. The consciousness that we are becomes aware that it can identify with a larger size, I guess you would say. Again, words have a hard time here. Our consciousness, the awareness that is the true us, cannot be cut up and separated. Or, in other words, we can't identify with it being cut up and separated. We think we can. We think we can multitask and divide our attention equally here. But really what we're doing is we're shining that flashlight here, 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 here. That's what multitasking really is it's not focusing on anything for longer than a little bit of time. That's not, we can't be in three places at once. And paradoxically, we can by expanding our consciousness, by becoming present, like we're typing. We've got someone talking to us at the same time. We have inner body awareness happening. We can be aware of the words coming out of our mouths or the words that we're typing and be aware of the awareness in our body. And feel the person standing behind us. Words coming out. Like right now, I'm talking and I can feel the awareness in my hands and talk at the same time. At the same time. That's the idea, is this expansion. We can expand, we can't divide. Okay? I don't know if that makes sense. It doesn't matter. This idea came to me from as I was meditating this morning. If this resonates with you, cool. If not, you don't have to watch it. So I'm going to leave it there. If you watch this on the live Instagram, I'll be posting a video. I'll be posting the video of this to my YouTube channel at Selfless Awakening. If you like the videos, subscribe because I'll be making more. This is the way that I feel that I get to be of service, is just to share the ideas that come into my head, and that maybe they'll resonate with someone else, or I find a partner on the journey, or maybe this will help someone along the journey of feeling better, being happier, feeling free of identification with pain and negative thinking, you know. There's a way out. Oh! All right. Have a great day, everybody.